Hi friends, welcome to Automate Anything UiPath tutorials. My name is Rajinish Balakrishnan. I am an UiPath MEP, Advanced Certified RPA Developer in UiPath and founder of To Automate Anything. In the last week, I have started a new series on the UiPath knowledge sharing, where I am covering everything about UiPath Studio, Orchestrator, robots, and also to help candidates clear foundation level certification as well as the advanced level certification. As part of that, I was sharing everything about introduction to RPA and UiPath tool. This week, we will be seeing everything about variables and arguments. Also, I will be sharing some examples there. So my tutorials are mainly focused on the audience who don't know anything about UiPath, are willing to learn about UiPath and RPA. Also, those who know UiPath and willing to clear the foundation level certification or the advanced level certification, you are also welcome to watch my videos. So try to watch my videos till the end, and you can replay if you did not understand any concept. Also, you are welcome to contact me or connect with me in LinkedIn at any time. Okay, and finally, I thank all the subscribers who have subscribed in the past week. So I also request you to share it with your friends. It may be useful for someone. If you haven't watched my last week video, please go ahead and watch that video. So this is only the second chapter, and we will be seeing more such chapters in the upcoming weeks. Okay, setting up the UiPath ecosystem. So for that, first we need quite a fair understanding of the UiPath RPA platform and Studio, Orchestrator, and robots, setting up UiPath Studio. So let's focus on the UiPath RPA platform. So if you see the UiPath RPA platform, you might remember something that I covered in the previous chapter on the RPA life cycle. So if you see the RPA life cycle, so there is, I have run through a different sections on that, like discover, build, manage, run, and engage. And this is the entire platform, like any development methodology or in a software development life cycle. So we follow this approach. So right from the discovery to the support phase. So RPA also similarly follows this, and there are different tools and technologies used within the each of the phase. So in the discovery phase, there are certain tools called as automation hub, task capture, process mining, and task mining. Definitely we are not going to learn about these tools. So just for your information, you can gather this. Just be aware there are tools available just for process assessment. So these are like some other artificial intelligence technology. So that resides on the customer's computer and see what process can be automated or cannot be automated. And then they generate the reports and tell how much feasibility are there for this automation, and it gives many requirements as such, and it gives a result of this automation, how many percentage can be automated or how many percentage cannot be automated. So there are so many tools available with UiPath for this. So it's highly advanced topic, but I'm not going to touch there. So now on the build stage, there is different tools like Studio X, Studio, and Studio Pro. And this Studio X is mainly meant for the citizen developers. There is a separate concept called citizen developers, who are like the business analyst or non-technical users who is want to automate. So UiPath has an interesting tool called Studio X, which is like drag and drop tool. It's highly visual and very good user experience there. And the business analyst, they can draw you like a flowchart kind of thing, and they can create like solution, but we are not interested in that. And we will be either seeing the Studio or the Studio Pro. And there is some difference between Studio and Studio Pro. Studio Pro is quite advanced, where we have the test suite and all those advanced features there. So that is the Studio Pro, and we'll be seeing Studio and the Studio Pro, Studio or Studio Pro. And the community edition of one of this will do, but we are mainly focused on the Studio. All the Studio functionalities we are mainly focused on. And if you see the manage, there are many tools, but the one tool we are specifically interested is the orchestrator. For this foundation or advanced level of course, we focus mainly on the orchestrator. So that is where we manage the robots or manage the data and everything. And for the run phase, so there are robots available. So something is called as attended robots, unattended robots, and test robots. So the difference is like the attended robots, like someone need to manually click. So what I have shown now is an attended robot, because I clicked somewhere and it has done all the operations. So that is attended robot. And this can, if this is scheduled and this call is coming from the orchestra directly and it is happening all automatically, that is called as unattended robots. The only difference is the instructions comes from the studio, is the attended, and the comes from the orchestrator is the unattended. And for the test robots, it's the question asked by Alvin, that is the test. How do we test that? So those are called using the test suite, that is the test robots. And Engage, we are not much interested in this Engage part. This is something called as human in the loop. So where the robots and the humans work together. So they communicate with each other using some apps and this chatbots or assistant. So wherein the user gets some notification from the robot to do some operation, for example, like entering some captcha value or something to get access to some application, where the user gives that and the robot work on that. And there is a strong collaboration between this human and the robot that is called Engage in a high level. But nothing to worry about this. So this is some life cycle. The only thing is like we are going to focus on the studio, orchestrator, and the robots. So we'll be handling with these kind of technology. So here again, the studio, orchestrator, and robots. I have already covered this section, and so we'll just skip that topic, mainly because we have a separate section on the orchestrator side. So using, when I am running through that orchestrator, I'll be showing all the different features that are available in the orchestrator, and how do we communicate with the orchestrator, and how the interactions takes place, scheduling. So there are various range of topics that needs to be covered. It's quite interesting topic, and we'll handle it separately. And setting up the UiPath Studio. I hope by now I did not get any questions on this from anyone. I hope everybody is comfortable in installing this studio, right? So you have downloaded the community edition of the studio. So which means there is some limitation on this community edition. You cannot have unlimited robots. So that is the first limitation we have. And you can have one attended and one unattended robot, and with that you have the like complete access to the studio, and you can access to all those features. Mainly for learning purposes, this is really helpful. And yeah, that is all about the community edition. And there are two other edition, which is the enterprise edition. And the enterprise comes in two flavors, which is, one is the enterprise server edition and other is the cloud edition. So which is mostly it's infrastructure related. So this enterprise server resides in the enterprise. That is the meaning, which is that the orchestrator, so that resides within the enterprise world. So it's not exposed to the client. So mostly in banking sector, and where very the very kind of secured access is needed, so they follow this approach, where the orchestrator is installed in their local machine. I mean the local infrastructure. And the enterprise cloud, it is in the cloud, and the UiPath orchestrator is in the cloud. So that is the only difference, but both has some similar features. And how the data is handled, that is the only difference in both of this. But we no need to worry about this enterprise edition at this point of time, and we will, as because we will be working in the community edition. So now exploring this UiPath Studio. Okay, so let me bring up my UiPath Studio and just and start showing. So just now I have opened the studio and waiting for it to open. Okay, guys. So let me, so this is the landing page or the backstage page, we can say. And you got the process and everything. So to go into this, the main stage. So I'll create a process which is called Explorer. Explorer. I'll put it as UiPath Explorer for time being. And in the location it's storing in this location, and we write some description. Let's explore UiPath. There's a meaningful description. So it depends on how you create that project. You can add more description as well. It's creating a workspace for us to work and adding dependencies. In the background, a lot of tasks is going on. And as you can see, it has a project created here. And you can see there is a main workflow here. And this is called as the project panel. And in the project panel, you can see this, there is some dependencies, settings, the main file, and the JSON file. So some settings file is already there. And you can see the main workflow here, and there is a main.xaml. So this both are the same. And if you see the main workflow, it will open the designer part. So this is called the designer window, where so it's both are the same. If I close and open this main.xaml, it just lands in the same place. Okay, so these are some, this is the main window, right? So this is blank at the moment, because we haven't yet started coding here. So that is why it is blank. And the main thing to be noted is by default, you can see the dependencies. It is the Excel activities, mail activities, system.activities, and UI automation.activities. So these are the four, this is by default, these are the dependencies added. This is one of the question in the foundation level exam. So by default, what are the activities are displayed? So by default, it's 4. So you can note down this Excel mail system. This is by default. And this is the project panel, and you have access to all these dependencies and settings. And you can go to this activities section. So there are many number of activities. So you can see the Excel mail system. Similarly, there are many others. And it depends on the need, you can drag the activities to the this designer panel. That is when your actual coding starts, and you can search for the activities here. So for example, if I want to display a message box, I can type a message here, and there is no message box. So it may be the here it is. So see, it brings up the message box. So I drag and drop. So it's kind of, you can relate with any other programming languages. You need to write the code, import the libraries and everything, and you create some 5-10 lines of code to write this message, and somewhere it is very 2 or 3 lines, depends on which programming language you are using. In UiPath, you drag this message box and write hello. So I write something like this, and inside the codes, and just run it. Hopefully it doesn't create any error. Yes. So I get this message box as output in the next screen. I'm dragging it here. So hello to automate anything, friends. Just click OK. That's all. So this is the coding. Believe me or not, this is the first robot. I have created my first robot. When you do this in your computer, so you have created your first robot by now. That is the truth. So this is a message bot you can call or something. Give some specific name. And that is what it is. And this is the designer panel, and you can see a sequence is generated. So there are either there is a sequence or a flow chart. So this is just a container, okay? And you can put any number of common like activities inside this sequence, and you can create based on the workflow requirements, you can design this, okay? And now we are like just trying to understand what it is. And there is a design like a home panel here we just came across. And there is a design panel. In the design you can say new, save. It's very similar to the Word or Excel document. You can explore each of this and just drag there, and you get the hover as export and get the explanation here, and you get some information. So design got all these tools used to design the workflows. And in the debug, we got the debug and breakpoints. So this is for debugging. And there is something called the output, where you can see this output there when it started and ended. And there is some properties panel at this right. And when you click on one of this activity, you get this property box. You can see the text here. I have written this text, and there are some options, so which we will learn more when we are dealing with specific activities in each chapter. And the main thing to know here is then the arguments and the variables panel. See, there is a variable panel and the arguments panel and the imports panel. And imports depends on the functionality we will import. But for now, you saw the default for activities libraries there. But this depends on the requirements we will import. And there are variable and arguments. Let me check if I need to cover any other important activities. So I am covering only the key activities, guys. So don't think that I am not covering a certain part. So it's not required at this stage. So these are the most important, and you will be dealing with it again and again. Only the parts I am covering, that is pretty much enough for taking you to the advanced level. So I have covered on the output panel as well. And that's all. So what we'll do, let's now we have seen all these things, and I'll close this and create a new process automation. Okay, because we need to explore on the variables and the arguments. Okay, so explore variables and arguments. This is the project name. So we are going to create a project. Okay, we are going to create a robot just to play around these arguments and variables. Okay, this is really important. No matter how advanced you become, so you will be dealing with this on daily basis. So now what I'm going to do is like create a project. So what I'm thinking about is like I'm getting input using a input dialog, and get the name of the employee. Okay, it's a project. So yeah, I want to get a name of the employee in one module, and another module is the company module, which is the to automate anything. And inside the company module, I'm going to get the message, get the name, and writing a welcome message inside the company, and giving the output to the main, so that we know how the data and the variable is passing between these modules, okay, or the workflows. So let me go through it. So for that, what we need is, first of all, a dialog, an input dialog. Okay. So yeah, here is the input dialog. So it will ask us for an input. So I want to give the title as enter the name. Okay. Enter the name, and the label is name. Because this is a string, it's a name. And input I'm getting is a text box. Okay. And see, I'm getting an input in a dialog box, and I want to save it in somewhere. So that is where this variables comes into picture. Okay. And no matter whatever programming language or technology, so this variables and arguments plays an important role in doing any programming, just to save, store the data, pass the data. And similarly, UiPath also need this variables and arguments. So let me create a variable. Okay. So what I'll write is the username. Okay. So I'm following some best practices as this, the camel case or something like this. So I'll be creating this as a username, and this is a string variable. Okay. And like the standard variable, like when you expand this is, so this is also another question, like what are the variable type displayed by default? So it's a Boolean, int, string, object, and array of t, and some browse for types. So this is something else. And system.data table. This is exactly the .NET, all the .NET data types. So everything is here. So all the Microsoft .NET supported data types are here. In addition to that, UiPath also has some advanced data type, so which is like system.data table and many other. Sorry, please. Okay. And so we'll click for this browse for types, and you can see all these types here. Okay, so depends on which type you need. So UiPath provide all these data types, and you can choose depends on your. But for now, let's take it as string, because name is a string. So I hope you are with me so far, and you can see the scope. So as a best practice, what I will write is like click on this sequence and give this project a name. So I'll say variables and arguments. Okay, so I'm giving this name as for this sequence, and you can see this scope here. It's got automatically changed, which means this username variable is accessible from this entire container. That is the variables and arguments. It's accessible in here, and now I'm just, I'm giving the control plus space, which is the shortcut key. Or if you double click and enter the space, still it will be displayed. You can select the username. So which means there is an input dialog which saves the name into this username. And you can also give a default value like this here, which is Raj, my name. Maybe in some cases we need some default because we don't need to pass as null value when passing data. So it's the default. And so that's it. Now, if I see I write a comment like a message box and write this username. Hello username. So this is the message box I'm going to write. So now let me run. So now we have explored something about the variables. You know what is the variable name, the variable type, the scope. So this is the most important three topics. So you will be using this again and again. Okay. So it's a fairly simple robot program. So I'm going to click on the run or the debug mode. So what it is going to do is it's going to pop up the input dialog box, and in which like I'm going to type the name. See, it's asking the enter the name. So what the name what I remember now is shiny. No, I click shiny and click on OK. See, sorry, it's opened in the other, the monitor. So I'll bring it. So it's saying hello shiny, right? It's a simple robot that is displaying your username. So this is employee details. Now, let's talk more about arguments. So if you see the arguments, so this is mainly used when there is one more module. So let's say it has a message box, and I'm going to right click and the surround extract as a workflow. Okay, so you can do it in two ways. Like I can extract this as a workflow because I'm creating a new module, the employee module, and give this a topic like company, or like, okay, I'll use company. Okay, so I'm creating a company module. You can imagine a lot of scenarios there, but I'm giving simply a message box. You can do a lot of operations as well. And if you see, I'm invoking a company.xaml. So if you see the project here, it has created a company.xaml file here. So there are two ways to do, as I told you. You can either create a, the sequence from here and write, company and, like HR and you can create a separate HR module, and you get this one. And in that main XAML, you can invoke that workflow, like invoke. Oh, sorry, I'm clicking in the project. So from here, I invoke, the workflow file. Okay, so I click on the invoke workflow file, and I just copy here. Like I need to select the which process is a HR. Okay, so there are two ways multiple ways you can do this. So these are the two ways, but I don't want HR. I just showed for a demo purpose. Now it's the company.saml. So I'm just going to make some changes in this company. So here I'm going to welcome the employee. Welcome to welcome. I'm going to welcome that name plus I need to create an argument here. Okay, so the shortcuts to create an argument, so which is you can create a argument like this, or you can, I think, control plus M. I'll confirm on that. Don't remember from top of my mind. So I create an argument is like username. Yeah, so it's control plus M. You can create the argument. So two ways you can do. You can go click on the arguments tab and click the arguments. So I clicked as, now this is the, I need to as a best practice, I will put in underscore username. So because I'm getting this as an input, so I click this. So here I put in the space in underscore username. Then I put welcome to automate. Okay, so it do not have any, the arguments mapped, and that is why it's throwing this error. So here, what I click, I'll give import arguments, and for the in underscore username, so I map the username. Well, I think there is some issue. Let me debug. Yeah, here it is. I have missed a concatenation. Sorry, sometimes I do this. So now what I do, I welcome plus the arguments and to automate anything. So now you can understand. So you can imagine if there is any, the separate module we need to pass this, we will be following this. So you are and if you see these variables, see at the moment when I click on the variable, so there is only one variable, which is the username. And when you click on this company, so here you have in underscore username. So which means this cannot be accessed in the main workflow. I hope you got that. So now what I'll do, yeah, so yeah, okay. So now let us run the workflow, but I'm expecting this message box to happen because I have passed it as an argument. Okay, so there is some message in the other monitor. I will bring there. Sorry, now enter the name. So I need to name, now I will put as Princey, and so yeah, so see here is a message. So welcome Princey to automate anything. So which is working from the company workflow, right? And so when I click OK, so it's from the main workflow, which is hello Princey. So I'm passing the variable which is Princey, the username, which is the value Princey to the workflow using these arguments. And guys, you need to be really comfortable with this, the argument and the variables, because we will be using it again and again and again. So you need to know what is the direction, the name. So I give us in means in direction, which is coming to the workflow, and sometimes you give us out, okay, and which we are going to give it as to the out workflow. So okay, so so that is how it works. And we may create some other the out variable as well. So we will give out message. We'll give a message, okay, so to the out. So we are not having the message inside the company, which means I'm going to assign the message. I'm going to assign the message to this out underscore message. So which I'm going to do welcome, the same thing, plus the username I'm getting, the in underscore username, plus 2a, I make it short. So now this is the out message. So I'm doing some process, which means this is not just a message and I'm playing with this welcome and all this basic thing. But think about a process is happening, or assigning a number or doing some calculations or operations. You need to think in that way, so that you will be able to relate these variables and arguments. So now I'm assigning and doing some operation, and from the main workflow, I need the message. Okay, so I'm creating a variable called the message. I just need this message from somewhere, and from the out message, I'm just mapping it to this message. So now I no need this message box. I'll just type the message, okay, so that there is no hard coding. I'm just getting the value of that is processed inside the company workflow, and I'm getting it outside. And if you see this message now, you can see that it's inside the variables and arguments, and username is also under variables and arguments. So that is what it is. And if I go to the company, you cannot see that, which you saw outside, because we have the in username and out message. Yeah, so that is what it is. I hope you understand. So now I'll click a sample run. Okay, so now I need to give some name. So I give Siva. Okay, so it's Siva Kumar, and click on OK. Okay. Yeah, so the message box is here. So I did not give this formatting correctly. So it gives welcome Sivakumar to A. So the main reason is what we need to note is that the variable is transferred between these processes, right? So that is what important. The value has been transferred. All right. So now we have seen, about the variables, the arguments and everything. And I have introduced you to the UiPath Enterprise platform and its components. So we have discussed more on this UiPath installation, and because I did not go through much into the installation, you have already done that, and you have followed the settings as well. So I hope you are able, if you are able to launch the UiPath Studio, you are really well and good. If not, just reach me directly. We can sort it out. So, and we saw the orchestrator, we saw the studio, we saw the robot, everything in action using 2 examples. And finally, we saw about the variables and arguments and how to pass the variables and how to process within this variables and argument, using those arguments and variables, how to do some processes. So that is what we saw exactly. Thank you very much for watching my video. Stay tuned. Have a good day.